And again, the obsolescence issues will be addressed by the client.
Thank you, Chair. In conclusion, Chair, as Armscor, we work through taskings that we receive from the Defence Materiel Division. And insofar as the taskings that we received relating to spares, all these taskings were attended to, executed, and the spares were delivered. And as the presentation indicates, some of the spares are in the course of being delivered. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we kindly proceed now to the presentation by Division Defence Materiel? We're waiting. How long are we still going to wait?
Silence reigns.
Is SANDF here?
There is the DOD here, Chair.
Yes, they are here. But their mics are off, so it's... Can somebody please call them to make sure that they connect? We can't keep members waiting.
Yes,
I'm calling them, Chair.
Thank you. This is unacceptable. It's just unacceptable.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. Chair, I would like to report that Chief of the Navy is on board.
But he's not here. We've been waiting for about 2 minutes now.
No, I'm Chief of the Navy. I've looked.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. I didn't check. I didn't check the name. Yes. You're welcome, General.
Admiral, sir.
Admiral, yes.
Thank you, Chair.
You may proceed.
Who must proceed himself?
Yes, Admiral, we're waiting for your presentation now.
Chairperson, the Navy does not have a presentation per se. But I thought maybe the committee is going to discuss, and then the Navy can then send present its perspective on what has been presented thus far. I'm not sure how the chair wants to play it.
I had indicated earlier that we are going to take both presentations by Defence Materiel and Armscor,
Yes.
and then discuss them as one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought the chair is waiting for Defence Material to present their to make their presentation.
Yes, that's. I thought you were coming in to make that presentation, but we're waiting for them.
Okay. No, thanks, Chair. No, I'll also wait because I'm not privy to that presentation. I don't represent Defence Material.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, you're welcome. Nandipa, Tabitha, what is happening? What's going on?
I'm on the phone, Chair, with the PLO to the Secretary of Defense. He's saying they're trying to log in. They're still trying to log in.
It seems like they are not ready for us.
They definitely not ready. Like this, you must crack the whip.
Yeah, but Chair, they can't try to log in now. They should have logged in long in advance. This is unacceptable, really. It just gives one a terrible taste in the mouth of a lack of professionalism. Honestly, this is unacceptable.
Absolutely. They knew the meeting is starting at 9. They should have logged in before 9 o'clock.
Chairperson, good morning. And good morning, colleagues. Am I audible, Chair?
I don't even know who is talking.
It is Virgil Garrighe.
Oh, yes, Honorable Garrighe, yes.
Chair,
You're audible.
it would appear that the department is not ready. We are waiting for quite some time now. I think you must make a ruling, either defer or postpone, so that they get themselves ready at the next opportunity, Chairperson. This is unprofessional. It cannot happen. We are Parliament. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Niehaus.
Yes, Chair, I would like to support what my colleague, the Honourable Virgil Garrighe, is saying. What I would like to propose is that we take the presentation that we have received from Armscor and we engage on it. I don't know if there was going to be cross-referencing to this presentation by Defence Materiel, and therefore that it makes it difficult for us to engage with the Armscor presentation. But if we can, we should try to do so. But I would like to ask you to issue the strongest possible sanction against the Defence Materiel Division of the SANDF. This is utterly unacceptable. They're making themselves look absolutely pathetic, and they're also putting us in the most unenviable position. So it is time for us to make sure that people face consequences when they fail to behave in a professional manner and when they fail to do the kind of things that needs to be done. As I've said earlier, they should have joined us 15 minutes, 20 minutes, perhaps even half an hour beforehand, and they should have made sure that they're ready to do this presentation. We haven't got time to waste. and they're busy wasting our time, Chair.
Thank you. There is a firm proposal that we take the discussion that's already been made whilst they are trying to log in and then issue a strong censure. We will issue the strong censure anyway, whether they do succeed eventually to join in or not. Honorable Windy, Honorable Harting, Honorable Sokanyile.
Chair, I want to agree, but I don't know if this report is the purpose not for them to try to find common purpose, because there's cross correlating issues from defense and defense material and Armscor. So I just don't know, Chair, but I'm tempted to agree with the colleagues before me, but you must maybe just check on the cross-referencing, that we don't discuss this one. When we go to the other one, we must come back to Armscor again. It will be a waste of actually our time and fruitless exercise. So I'm just checking that, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Harting.
No, Chair, I agree with what was just said. Now, it will not be time efficient to now engage on the Armscor presentation and then later come back to it again. I think we should wait for the other presentation.
Thank you. Honorable Sokanyile.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me greet also the members of the Joint Standing Committee. Let me greet the officials of Armscor and the officials of DOD. Meanwhile, they are trying to log in. Chairperson, I think Honorable Windy has covered me, because I want to agree that we discuss the Armscor report, and then issue a strong warning to defense material on their report, on the defense material report that we couldn't get, because that is the report that was going to assist the Armscor report. But to me, Armscor has presented, and they are not able, because they cannot come tomorrow and say Armscor this and Armscor that, because we have given them a chance to present, but Armscor has presented. To me, let us deal with the Armscor report and ask the questions relevant to the report that is in front of us. Then a stern warning to the defense for not being on time. It's an issue on its own, even if they were to present a report. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. I want to suggest that since we've already received the presentation from Armscor, we don't throw the baby away with the bathwater. Armscor has already done the presentation, and we are here. I want to request that we take the discussion from Armscor. The SANDF Defence Materiel Division should not even join now. We now must just simply dismiss their participation. We will deal with the matter after the meeting, because this is really disrespectful. Let us discuss the Armscor presentation to the extent that we can discuss it, mindful of the fact that we've not received the other presentation, which would have supplemented the discussion from the presentation by Armscor, so that we also don't just cancel the meeting when we are already here. May I request, honorable members, your indulgence that we discuss the presentation that's already been made. The floor is open. Honorable Niehaus.
Thank you, Chair. I agree that we should proceed with the discussion with regards to the presentation that we have received. It is a granular presentation which gives us a lot of technical detail about certain orders. Unfortunately, it doesn't provide us with the necessary background and integration about how this fits into the plans of the various divisions of the South African National Defence Force properly. And of course, hopefully, the presentation by Defence Materiel would have helped us to get there, but unfortunately, we don't have it. So we are in a serious limitation in that regard. I do have some questions, however, with regards to the SAS Drakensberg. This vessel, Chair, is now 40 years old, and it hasn't sailed for many, many years. From what I gather, when we look at the presentation from Armscor and the spare parts that have been ordered, some have been received, others not, they are trying hard to get this vessel back into operation. Now, first of all, I would like to ask about the feasibility of this whole process and whether this is the most cost-effective way to do it, especially on a vessel that is this old, and whether it still has the capabilities that are required by the Navy. And the capability itself is clearly in desperate need of replacement. But is the best way what they are doing now, is my first question. My second question is if they can give us clearer timelines, how the spare parts that they have ordered now, and some of which, as I've said, that they have received, will assist them to get this vessel back into operation. That is my first question, Chair. Secondly, I looked through the whole presentation by Armscor, and I don't see any reference to the issue of body armor, which has become a critical matter for especially the South African Army, but actually the whole South African National Defence Force. Last year, when we attended the armaments exhibition at Waterkloof Air Base, Armscor made a big issue about the so-called modern body armor that they are looking forward to procure. There was quite a lot of controversy about that so-called modern body armor and whether it actually reflects what is required in modern warfare. But I don't see any reference to it. Has that been shelved, or what is the situation? Because in the context of the speech that the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans made during the budget vote for defence and military veterans, she made a big thing of the issue of putting soldiers first. Now, certainly, the issue of body armor and the protection of your soldiers should then be a critical one. I am glad, and he introduced himself to us, that the Chief of the South African Navy, Admiral, is with us. And if it is possible in the context of this presentation by Armscor for the Chief of the Navy to give us some feedback about what the current relationship between the South African Navy and Armscor is, specifically with regards to the Armscor dockyard at Simonstown, I think it will be highly appreciated. In the past, he had made highly critical comments about the way in which Armscor operates and the way in which the lack of delivery from the side of Armscor has impacted on the readiness and the capabilities of the South African Navy. Is there a change, or are we still in the same situation? We need to get clarity about that. And unfortunately, when another part of our defense committees, namely the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans, went to Simonstown to visit the dockyard, there was a strange standoff where Armscor made a presentation to us, but simultaneously the Navy was not able to make a presentation on the basis of instructions that they had received from the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, which left all of us with a bad taste in our mouths, but certainly raised the bigger question on whether this lack of proper interaction, engagement, and direction between the Navy and Armscor is continuing. These are problems of serious concern, Chair, and I would love for the head of the Navy to give us some feedback on these issues. Overall, I think what we have experienced this morning, again, with the absence of the Chief of Defence Materiel and their presentation, is an indication of the lack of professionalism that we are faced with from the side of the South African National Defence Force, and also the problem that has been persistent in the relationship between Armscor and the SANDF, which has been a lack of communication. Armscor, in passing, referred to this issue of communication in their presentation, but they didn't specify further in giving us enough clarity on how these problems are being resolved. And if we look at the performance of defense material this morning, I'm concerned that these problems are not yet resolved, and therefore we will continue to have miscommunication between the SANDF and Armscor, with all the consequences flowing through from that with regards to what is happening with orders, delivery, and maintenance. And then lastly, Chair, although I understand that we couldn't get full detailed reports about the South African Air Force, I do want to hear from Armscor what is the situation with regards to that in-place contracts that there are. Are those contracts being properly honored, or are there problems with regards to those contracts in terms of the maintenance of the fighter planes, the Gripen fighter planes, and also the Oryx helicopters? We have heard that there had been problems between those supply companies and Armscor, and therefore that contributed to the delay in terms of getting the fighter planes and helicopters operational again, which has led to a situation where we hardly have any Air Force up in the skies and hardly any Air Force hours being flown. So those contracts, we need to get greater clarity about them and whether they are actually delivering. We've also heard that there were some contracts from the side of, with regards to the Gripen planes, that had been offered by Sweden, and unfortunately, Armscor and the SANDF, because of the lack of resources, were not able to honor those extensions of contracts. Is that correct? Or is that information that need to be ameliorated so that we understand the situation better? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Niehaus. Honorable members, I have been a bit liberal because we've some time since there was no presentation from Defence Materiel. So understand, that's why I've not imposed a time limit or set a time limit, to put it more democratically, on the speaking time. Honorable Godsell, followed by Honorable Harting.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to the members and also to all the officials. Chair, yes, I think it's quite ironic, the absence of the SANDF, but I will be quick. I understand that we are in a hurry. I would just like to ask, I've been covered a lot by Honourable Nias, but I want to ask about the current state of the submarine refit. There was a lack of clarity and oversight during the recent visits to Simonstown. So I'd like to know, the Chief of the Navy is on the line, and so is Armscor, but how long is the refit going to be going on for? Is there a timeline for the completion thereof? If there is no timeline, or if it's not active, what is the delay? And then, Chairperson, I've read that there was recently an offer of assistance by South Korea and India, and whether the Navy is considering assistance from other countries like these to assist. And then I would also like to know the current state of the Charlotte Matleke. She has been laying in Armscor dockyard at Simonstown for quite some time now, and during the Select Committee on Security and Justice's visit last year, we were told that she would be, well, I don't know if she would be fixed. They would start work on her this year. I would just like to know if there is an update on her. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Hatton.
Thank you, Chair. I think I really am at loss because of the performance of SANDF on this. Because what we discuss here, although some examples were put forward or in the Armscor presentation, what we discuss here, and which has actually been a standing discussion for the Joint Standing Committee for almost a decade, is a lack of cooperation between the SANDF and Armscor on procurement of spares, which impacts on the readiness of the SANDF, and specifically the main battle equipment. Now, if we go back to the defense review, it is stated in the defense review, for what it's worth, because it's never probably funded, that a close SANDF Armscor cooperation and alignment is a necessity to prevent capability losses. And ever since then, 2015, this has been on the table. And this goes to the submarines and the frigates, and as well as the aircraft. It's overarching, and there's a history of constant and consistent blaming game from the SANDF that Armscor cannot provide. Armscor then countering, saying there's lack of funding and lack of prioritization from the SANDF. We've got a similar situation also with the dockyard, a Navy situation, where we took a specific decision on. But then there was the Joint Standing Committee actually then also requested that this friction, because it impacts on the whole of the Defence Force capabilities, should be discussed. And there was a meeting on which there was a report back on the 20th of April 2023. Now, for us to make progress, we cannot repeat the same things over and over and just expect a different outcome. So as far as I can determine, the last time we had something on the table was in April 2023, and this is about cooperation between the SANDF and Armscor, which this meeting is actually all about. There it was stated that the procurement of spares, and I would like to get a response, at least from Armscor, on this. What has happened to this cooperation? How is it in place? Procurement of spares should become proactive rather than reactive. Is that in place? Requirements for spares to be provided early in the financial year, preferably before the start of the financial year. We have seen how long it takes to get, for instance, permission from Germany to get the export permits. Then it was also said that the phasing of operating funds should be provided to coincide with the lead times of long lead spares. And that was stated to allow payment for spares in future financial years if required. Was that implemented? Then the procurement of spares equipment for which the NEL is the OEM and cannot provide the spares to be contracted to other entities with the requisite engineering financial capabilities. Was that implemented? Data packs should be made available to bidding entities together with sufficient agreements to protect any NEL intellectual property. Was that implemented? And then the umbrella agreements with the OEMs, was there any progress on that? And that was to facilitate quicker turnaround times of space procurement. And then, a lot of these things should have been discussed between Armscor and the SANDF. And as far as I'm concerned, if everything that was then discussed and agreed upon was implemented, we wouldn't have had, again, the friction that's so visible in many meetings, as well as in the differences in the presentations, one that we had and the other one that we did not have today. So I would like to get a response on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sokanyile.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let us thank Armscor for the report that they have given us that talks to the procurement of the material for defense, because that's their core purpose, to support the SANDF through the Department of Defense, acquiring the material and the equipment on their behalf. Now, Chairperson, looking at the report, the report presented by Armscor, most of the contract or the contracts given to these service providers, they show that there is movement in the sense that there are recent acquisition. Because to me, when we went for an oversight, having to listen to a report saying that they've been waiting, Navy, for instance, they've been waiting for the spares to be acquired by Armscor, and there's nothing. But also, I know with the few resources that we have, and NABO not speedily doing their job, because the defense or the Navy and Air Force, they should sit with the material of spares being there. Then if Armscor cannot do that, because we need to come up with innovative things to say that how do we assist on that? For instance, I don't know which submarine or which vessel that has got so many years. when the report was presented to us when we went for an oversight, that has been sitting there in the dockyard waiting for spares. Because to me, if they agree, Armscor with the end user to say that if you want this thing within this part of a time, it must be there. I know most of the material, we don't get it here in South Africa. We need to go to get it abroad. But there should be an agreement when to get what, so that there will be no blame game. Otherwise, we look at the report, and this report, we are going to use it for us when we go to an oversight to say, you have bought this, you have said this company did this, has it been delivered? Because all they have got deadlines when they are to be delivered, so that we don't get other stories. Otherwise, the frustration is there to the South African Navy for not having the spares and the Air Force. You, even yourself being a layman, you can say that if you have to use a particular equipment and that particular equipment doesn't have the spares, then you'll be frustrated in not doing your work. But having this report that shows that there is something that is being done, there is work that has been done by Armscor, they are moving, then we're going to look at that, we're going to play our oversight on that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Nchingila.
A very good morning, Chair, honorable members, and representatives of Armscor. It's just a comment. So, I've joined the meeting a bit late, but I've seen the numbers, in fact, the stages of attempts to resolve problems of spares in SA Navy and the SAFF.
Honorable Nchingila, you are not very audible. I don't know whether it's your speaker or what, but you are not cutting. You are just not audible.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Much better. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I caught the presentation at the tail end, but what one would have identified, really have to build the capability of our defense industry, and once we do that, it also has to run simultaneously with transformation, so that it's also diversified, because we are using frigates and airplanes and many other equipments that we know their lifespan. So how far is the process of establishing a warehouse where we procure all the spares and the material required for us to maintain our upkeep? But we procure them on time, we keep them at the spares, given the lifespan and the timelines that are required, until such time where we are due for upgrades. But at this stage, I think it's poor planning on the side of Armscor and their finance and their engineering and their finance. So if we are to improve on that, I think the numbers and the preparations would look a bit better, because at this stage, we're just chasing a moving target. When we fix this, the other one is already on, requires maintenance, and we'll have to wait another 2 years. So if we are to plan better and we do regular assessments on all the equipment that is utilized by our defense, I think we can improve where we are, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see there are two hands, Honorable Godsell followed by Honorable Hatting. I don't know whether they are legacy hands or you have additional questions to ask.
Chair, I permitted something if you give me an opportunity, please.
Honorable Hatti.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, during our oversight visit to the Pretoria area, mention was made about a service level agreement between the SANDF and Armscor, and how successful it is. And we actually then commented on that and suggested that monthly meetings should be held because of the problems that we have in this relationship, and that feedback should be provided to the committee. Now, I've got 3 questions on that. Firstly, is it working? Are there regular monthly meetings? And then the third question is that this committee be provided today or tomorrow, it's not a problem, should not be a problem, with a copy of the service level agreement. I think that should give us insight into the root of the problems that continue to exist between the SANDF and Armscor. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And before I invite Armscor to respond to the questions that have been asked, I would like to understand the presentations obviously do not address this, and perhaps the committee hasn't yet posed the question to you. But what is the transformation policy that you follow? Or maybe put differently, how do your procurements impact on the transformation? I'm just following up on the question that Honorable Njingila asked. On the, how do your procurements impact on the country's transformation policies, both in relation to localization, that is supporting local defense sectors, as secondly, ensuring that we create supplier sectors from which you can source some of these spares that can manufacture them locally and supply you. But thirdly, in terms of supporting Black-owned and women-owned companies, defense companies that support the procurements that you seek, is there anything that you can tell the committee in regard to that, and without necessarily impacting on the timelines for the National Defence Force, but how do your procurements support transformation and localization?
Recording stopped.
Thank you. You may now come back and respond to the questions.
A very good morning, Chair. I'll respond to the question that has been posed by the honourable members, starting with the question posed by Honourable Niehaus insofar as the Drakensberg is concerned. Chair, I think Honourable Niehaus is quite correct. The vessel is quite old. We are experiencing problems in the sourcing of spare parts for this vessel, but we are making headway to ensure that we get this vessel back into the water. You know, in the midst of the challenges that we are having, whether the process that we are embarking on is cost effective, in our view, Chair, we are of the view that the process is quite cost effective. If we get things right, we should be able to get her into the water. The issue of that Honorable Gotzel asked in terms of the timelines, I think, Chair, if you allow, we will provide a written response in terms of when we think, this particular vessel will be, available for the user for, when it will be available for the, for the user. On the issue of the body armor, with respect, Chair, the topic of today was in relation to spare parts, so we did not then deal with the issue of the body armor. But if needs be, and I will be directed by yourself, Chair, we can provide a written response to yourselves in terms of where we are in relation to the procurement of body armor. On the issues raised by Honorable Hutting with regards to the position in relation to the contracts, maintenance contracts relating to the Air Force, Chair, we have all the contracts in place. As you have seen in one of the presentations that we made before yourselves, we indicated that the contracts are in place. But the elephant in the room, I must say, is the issue of funding. These contracts are grossly underfunded, Chair. That's why you don't see this platforms up in the sky, because we have requirements, but these requirements are not fully funded. If we were to resolve the issue of funding, Chair, we should be in a position to get all this, to get the platforms, serviceable. And I think this matter has been raised, on a number of platforms and occasions by ourselves as well as the Air Force, in particular the Chief of the Air Force, where he lamented on the issue of grass funding of the DoD, and in this particular occasion specifically, the underfunding of the Air Force platforms. The issue with denial is similarly. We have contracts, for the platforms that are in use by the user with denial. But all these contracts, Chair, are also grossly underfunded. As I've said, the elephant in the room. We may have multitude of contracts, but if these contracts remain unfunded, we'll always have this particular issue. Honorable Hutton asked about the umbrella agreements. Chair, we concluded umbrella agreements with the OEM specifically. And late last year, there was a contract that was long outstanding with Thales, that provides the spare parts for the various platforms of the Air Force. We recently received funding from the Air Force, and we placed the contracts accordingly. We have contracts also with, I'm just giving examples, with Pratt & Whitney, for the various platforms of the Air Force. As soon as money was received, we then, without delay, managed to place those contracts, with the various OEM. So I can categorically state, Chair, that we have umbrella agreements with some of the OEMs. With regard to the issue of the submarine refits, Chair, it took a while to get us where we are. We are concluding a contract with the identified service provider for the refit of the submarine, and we anticipate that the agreement or the contract will be in place by the end of July, so that we get the submarines in the water, quite soon. It just took long, to engage the service provider, because the submarines have been unattended to for a number of years, so it took quite a while, to get us where we are. But I can state with confidence here that we will manage to place the contract by the end of this month, the month of July 2025. Chair, the issue of proactive procurement of spares, as I've indicated right at the outset, it all depends just when we get tasking from Defence Material Division and whether those taskings are adequately funded. So if we get taskings early in the year and those taskings are accompanied with money, we should be able to plan and make sure that we proactively procure the spare parts for the various arms of service. The SLA, Honorable Hatting, yes, we have concluded the SLA. We have bilateral meetings, with the various arms of service, and these meetings are really yielding the necessary benefit, because we in those meetings discuss various challenges that are facing either Armscor or the relevant division. And the copy of the SLA surely can be provided to members of the committee. On the issue of the supply chain, Chair, we have the supply chain policy. The supply chain policy advocates for preferential procurement, either to black-owned entities, MMEs, SMMEs, and qualifying enterprises. Our policy is premised on the Public Procurement Act, which then fosters a transformation. When we go out on the request for bids, we always have a special requirements that talks to black and economic empowerment, that an entity that we contact to the extent feasible should meet the BE requirements. We also have a special requirement, and also here to the extent feasible, where we advocate for localization. So this, all this, interventions are contained within our supply chain policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. So the questions that you have requested to provide in writing, you need to provide them within 7 working days. But I think it would be necessary. Perhaps we will have a specific session where we get to understand the supply chain impact, both policy and impact. But obviously for today, we just wanted to focus on the issues of the spare parts. Now, honorable members, I don't know if there are any follow-up questions. Honorable Godsell, followed by Honorable Niehaus, followed by Honorable Njingila. Is there another hand? Okay, Honorable Godsell, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the undertaking to answer my question about the submarine refits in writing. I'm somewhat perplexed as to why that answer is not immediately available. But if it is not, can we have an undertaking that such an answer will be given in perhaps 7 days? Is that a reasonable time?
Honorable Godsell, I believe it is reasonable time. I'm sure they can provide an answer to that question within 7 working days.
Thank you, Chair.
Or Honorable Niehaus.
Thank you, Chair. With regards to the question that I asked concerning body armor, I think it will be helpful if we can get a response also within 7 days. With regards to the question on existing maintenance contracts, especially with considering the Gripen fighter planes, the helicopters, etc. We did not get a response. And I would like a response because we've received indications that some of these maintenance contracts are not being serviced. Now, I don't know if the reference that had been made by Armscor about underfunding is supposed to cover that issue, but I don't think it does. I want to know, are these existing maintenance contracts still in place? Have they lapsed because of lack of funding? And there have been some specific outreaches from companies such as Saab in Sweden to come up with alternative arrangements and also better financial agreements. What is the situation? Are those finally being taken into consideration, and are they being accommodated? Because I believe there's been an outreach, and so to speak, bending over backwards from the side of these maintenance contracts, those who have these maintenance contracts, to try and find a way to find a solution to this lack of funding. And then I know that I'm putting the chief of the South African Navy, Admiral Lubese, on the spot, and he's of course not part of Armscor. But in the questions that I did ask, I asked whether Admiral Lubese, seeing that he's here with us, could possibly take us into confidence about what the current nature of the relationship between Armscor and the South African Navy is, in the light of some of the critical comments that he had made in the past about the role of Armscor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gotts. No, where am I? Honorable Chigila. Honorable, yes, Adnara.
Sorry, Chair, before Mr. Honorable Chigila comes in, I'm
yes,
facing a technological challenge here. I'm trying to raise
yes, you don't have to.
Wait,
yeah,
okay.
on my
there are two people speaking. No, wait. Honorable Admiral, you were saying you were having a challenge.
I'm having a technological challenge here. I've been trying to raise my hand. I'm not sure whether you are seeing my hand on your other side, Chair, so that I can respond to some of these questions. But I'll wait for Honorable Chingila, and then if you so allow me, then I can say one or two words.
I was going to allow you after these follow-up questions.
Let
me take Honorable Chingila, Honorable Kherike, then I will come to you.
Yes. No, thanks, Chair. I think I would prefer having my response in writing. On the issue of transformation as to what are the plans, not on supply chain. In supply chain, you have a policy. You maybe one would also expect to see stats on women and youth only, including people with disabilities that are benefiting from your procurement spend. But in the main, on transformation, what is it that is in place to ensure or that there is indeed enterprise development for those young women and men that are entering into the defense industry, but they are also globally competitive and also share quite a sensible market share in the supply of what they produce for the defense industry. So those are the plans. This is what I'm asking, and I would want, if you can't respond now, I would gladly appreciate a written response. And secondly, in terms of the warehouse for the spares, I know we've made a call and there were considerations. What I would want to know, how far is it? How soon can we have it? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kherike.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. I'm going to be brief. Since our last oversight visit to all these institutions in Pretoria, I just want to know the mutual interrelations when it comes to procurement. Can Armscor tell us today what is the attitude of our institutions like the South African National Defence Force and other departments in regard to procuring locally from Armscor and all the other organizations, for instance? Is there an improvement? I know there were some complaints the last time with regard to funding issues, procurement, red tape, bureaucracies, and so on. Is there an improvement in that relationship? And since we have been there, did Armscor deliver any material, any arms, or did they manufacture for our local institutions in any way? And if they have, can you inform us what was it, the quantity or the products that you have delivered in this regard? It is important for us to understand this, Chairperson, because Armscor said at the time they were ready to produce. They're waiting on orders from the South African National Defence Force. We know that there was, from the Defence Force side, there were shortages and challenges. So now we want to know whether there's an improvement, whether there's budgets for that type of procurement that we needed, and how to follow it up so that we don't run out of stock since we have the manufacturers in our own country. Thank you, Chairperson.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't aware that I was muted. Let me start with Admiral Lobese and then go to Armscor.
Chairperson, the members of the Joint Steering Committee on Defence, honourable members, good morning. May I confirm that I'm audible enough, Chair?
You are loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity, and to the members. Chair, I'm not sure whether having received this presentation from Armscor about the spares procurement for the SANDF, I'll specifically speak about the South African Navy. Is the spares procurement by Armscor what to see as this committee? From where I'm seated, I think this requirement is misplaced to a certain degree, because we should be asking ourselves, what is it that the South African Navy, we should ask the South African Navy present, as well as the Air Force, the Army, and so forth, what is needed for us to meet our constitutional mandate? What is it that is available for us to achieve that constitutional mandate? What is the funding required? The impact of these non-available funds on the operational readiness of the SA Navy and in general, the SANDF. Then we can then go to the taskings that have been given to Armscor to procure with these little funds that we have at our disposal, to see whether what we are procuring satisfies the needs of us being able to provide a maritime defense for this republic. We have to understand that we can't run operations through procurement, because it's like buying a loaf of bread and eating that loaf of bread on and finish it in that specific day. The SANDF, specifically the SA Navy, we must make sure that we have fully stocked depots that we are able to prepare and provide combat-ready and supported maritime force at any given time that Parliament gives that taskings to the SANDF. We should be able to make sure that our onboard spares and all commodities are always available for quick turnaround time when we are busy with force preparation as well as conducting any operations. By so doing, we will guarantee ourselves on-time maintenance and upkeep schedules and plans are always achieved, not what we are presently experiencing as the SANDF and specifically as the SANDF, because the absence of these spares directly impacts on our ability to meet our maintenance and upkeep schedules as predetermined by the original equipment manufacturer. For this to be achieved, we must stop blaming one another, and as both the committee as well as the SANDF. These committees must, I won't say make a stage in to National Treasury to stop the sabotage that National Treasury is presently perpetuating against the SANDF. National Treasury, for a change, it needs to be patriotic in how they address the funding of the SANDF, specifically the SA Navy. National Treasury can't be allowed to be a super department or a government on its own over and above the current government. National Treasury has been ordered by the Commander-in-Chief to fund the SANDF to 1.7% of the GDP. We are mindful of the economic challenges that the country is facing, but that can be negotiable. We understand the human security imperatives adopted by government after 1994, and specifically since 1998, which has actually resulted into the defunding of the SANDF, but that has to come to a stop. All that can be because all that cannot supersede the national and physical security of the Republic of South Africa. Citizens that government has prioritized since 1998 through the implementation of human security objectives they must also feel safe in the country, in their own country. So therefore, we cannot afford to compromise the security of our citizens by defunding the SANDF because of what National Treasury is actually doing. I've said this before, that our maritime borders are porous because of the lack of capabilities, not because of the lack of will from myself and my team and the entire Navy, or the lack of skills to defend our maritime resources and the blue economy of this country. But it is due to the failure by National Treasury and government to adequately resource the SANDF to the required level so that we are always ready to defend this country. Members of the committee will understand that RSA's international relations posture has become a threat to the forces of doom around the world. Iran has just been attacked without provoking anyone. Libya was attacked just after being accepted back into the international community, and when one of Gaddafi's sons was interviewed by CNN just after the start of the war. He replied that they relaxed and never rejuvenated their armed forces after being accepted back into the international community. Is this what we or what National Treasury wants to happen to us as the Republic of South Africa through their unpatriotic posture of suffocating the SANDF financially? Armscor presentation of these spare parts procurement reports is not the solution. SAN and Armscor have identified our challenges, which date back pre-2005, when we, as the South African Navy, handed over the dockyard to Armscor. We resolved to stop mourning and fighting one another in these forums, but to come up with strategies to resolve our challenges. Hence, on 29th June this year, after the last sitting of this committee, I then resolved to issue an instruction to both the SA Navy and Armscor to establish an integrated project team to look into all challenges and devise solutions and costing, and which will actually resolve our challenges. I've identified plus minus 8 of these challenges, which I've tasked this team to look into, which will then report back to the minister, and the minister then will report to this forum. And this should be completed by latest by September next year. And Armscor CEO and myself, we've agreed that we will establish this IPT and we will look into all these 8 objectives, because we've done this before in 2009 when I was appointed as the director fleet logistics, and then I assembled a team which consisted of myself, the chairperson the general manager of the dockyard, Mr. Temba Kotuka, Mr. Pisinel, as well as other members, to come up with a dockyard rejuvenation strategy. We identified all the challenges that were faced within the dockyard, as well as the resources that were actually needed for us to make sure that the dockyard was actually capacitated. But that yielded zero, because there was no funding that was actually provided at the time. We even costed, members will recall, the CEO of Armscor in the last sitting mentioned that there was close to R1 billion that was identified to be needed to be able to rejuvenate the dockyard. That was the costing that we identified during my time when I was Director of Fleet Logistics, and provided it through the normal command lines to Chief of the Navy and as well as to Armscor Board. So since 2009 and now, things have definitely changed. Hence, we're actually revisiting this issue so that we can satisfy all of us that know this is where we are. We're throwing the sand here, and these are the challenges that we have. These are the strategies that we want to implement, and this is the roadmap, and this is the costing, and all that will come up as a result of this integrated IPT that I've actually established, which the CEO of Armscor has actually agreed to. Chairperson and members of the committee, in 2000, the then Minister of Defense, Mr. Terali Kota, appointed me as the Deputy Project Officer for Project Wheels, which was the acquisition of the 3 submarines. We observed in the early years of the project that government did not provide us with the needed funds for that acquisition. What do I mean by that? What government gave us, 80% of that allocated funds were only towards the acquisition of the actual boats. And then 20% of that allocated funds was only for the spare parts and through life support of those 3 boats. That 20% budget that was allocated to us could not even satisfy the spare parts that we need for the through life support of these submarines. I mean, through life for the 30 years lifespan of all 3 submarines. Those spare parts could not even last the first 5 years after the boats were actually delivered. To a certain extent, some of the spares that were the onboard spares, because we didn't budge these submarines from Germany to South Africa. They all 3 of them sailed on their own steam from Germany to South Africa. And some of the spare parts were consumed whilst they were on their voyage from Germany to here, and they got finished. And our depots were never stocked from the days of the project. We've been operating the Navy with almost 0 spares availability, not just for the submarines, for the frigates. Unlike what we actually experienced when we, after 1994. To this day, if you go to Naval Stores Depot Wingfield, you will still find spare parts of the old Strikecraft, some of the spares of the spare parts of the old ships that were even decommissioned, still available at NS Wingfield, but which are not usable to this day, because most of these vessels were actually disposed of. We understand, okay, the government of the day then did not prioritize human security. Defense was their priority, unlike what our government is actually doing. But that does not mean that we should actually allow this status quo to continue in the manner it is now continuing. National Treasury needs to make sure that it provides us with the necessary resources to stock our depots to the required stock level, so that we only use Armscor for the procurement of the spares when there is 1 or 2 items that is actually needed, but not use Armscor to procure spares for us to run our maintenance and upkeep, as well as to run our force preparation, as well as to run our maintenance and upkeep, because this process that we are following now is causing a major delays. That is why our platforms are unable to go to sea. It's because we do not have the spares that we require immediately for us to undertake these maintenance and upkeep activities as and when it is actually required. Mr. Nehaus says Drakensberg has been non-operational for 5 years, not because of the lack of will from myself, my predecessor, and everybody else within the Navy. It is because of the knee that National Treasury is actually putting on the neck of the South African Navy to make us not to be able to sail, to fight, to win, and remain unchallenged at sea. In 2002, Chairperson, to illustrate this point, so let me go. In 2002, the then Chief of the Navy, Admiral Modimo, visited us in Germany. And then I sat down with him. I said, Admiral, we have a challenge in this project. He said, what is the problem, Mondo? I said, Admiral, the challenge that I'm seeing, the red light that I'm seeing is that soon after before these boats gets delivered, and even after, we won't be able to support them logistically. He said, what do I mean? I said, government, sorry for repeating what I've said, government funding that they've provided us, the 20%, is not giving us the 30-year through life support that we require. So I request you to speak to your principals to give you an extra R1 for us to be able to procure the required and needed through life support, that is spares, materials, commodities, for us to be able to support these frigates, these submarines, up until they go to the graveyard. That Admiral Modimo tried, my predecessor tried, but they've not won. Myself, I'm also not winning because National Treasury is putting a knee on our neck to actually defund the SA Navy, by so doing us to compromise the national security, especially the maritime defense of this country. So we do need a serious intervention here, where I request you members of this committee to engage strongly with National Treasury to provide us with the necessary funding, because we will keep on hammering on Armscor. Armscor they are not to be blamed here. The people that are actually putting us in this predicament and compromising the national security of this country is National Treasury, by not providing us with the required resources, so that if we place an order to Armscor, we don't place an order for one item that we want to use now. We place as many spares that we require, so that we can be able at any given time keep required stock levels in accordance to our maintenance and support philosophy. Honorable Mr. Nehaus, with regard to your questions around Drakensberg, we've received plus minus 15 parliamentary inquiries, questions in the past few days. And we've responded to all those questions. I'll perhaps request that the member, because the minister will be given an opportunity to go and actually respond to all these questions in Parliament, and then we can then take those deliberations with it. I don't want us to now, I'll request that we don't short circuit this problem, these challenges. The minister will respond fully on all the questions pertaining to Drakensberg, to the submarines, and so forth and so forth. Armscor is actually responded on the one of the refit. As the SA Navy, we give the tasking to Armscor to execute the refit for us. So that is the process that they followed. I don't know whether it will be a South Korean or an Indian company that they've shortlisted. Will take what Armscor provides to us, so that we can be able to get our submarines refitted. That is where I would like to end it for now, Chairperson. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Admiral. Actually, what you said is a mouthful. Now, before I take Libello, let me take the two members of the committee whose hands are up, Honorable Niehaus and Honorable Godsell, Honorable Gerike, and then I will come back then to Armscor and the department as we wrap this particular discussion up. It's necessary that we take heed of what the Admiral has raised, because the fundamental issue is that we are not going to fund or to run the Navy operations through the procurement and repair of spare parts, but we need a more sustainable funding strategy. And this is the issue the committee has been raising over several months now. But let me take the three honorable members whose hands are up, and then we get the responses to what were follow-up questions, wrap this discussion up, and move to the next item. Honorable Niehaus.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and I want to thank Admiral Lubese for the straightforward and frank manner in which he talked to us today. I take a number of things from his input. I think the most significant is when he said to us, you can't run operational requirements through procurement. But obviously, operational requirements must come first, and then decisions around procurement must be based on operational requirements. And that is why the input that we were supposed to have received from Defence Materiel was so critical, so that we can understand also the issues around requirement with regards to procurement. I fully agree with Admiral Lubese that we need to take on the National Treasury in terms of the defunding of the South African National Defence Force in general, and specifically also the challenges that he is faced with in the South African Navy. From the side of the economic freedom fighters, we've made a number of suggestions also during the budget vote for defence and military veterans about the kind of funding that is absolutely essential if we want to see a South African National Defence Force that is functional and can provide in the protection and national sovereignty of our nation. Let me make one last historical comment, Chair, and that is with regards to the way in which some of the armaments were procured, specifically also the submarines. I'm glad that Admiral Lubese took us into his confidence about this, because it is evident that major mistakes were made in the way in which those submarines and other military hardware were procured. In fact, because there was no provision for maintenance, this whole project was doomed to fail right from the beginning. Then let me ask one last question to Admiral Lubese and also to Armscor, and this refers to the issue of our submarines and a reference in the presentation from Armscor that they will initiate G2G cooperation, government-to-government cooperation, with China for submarine and ship maintenance with skills transfer included. This concerns me a bit, because the fact of the matter is, when we talk specifically about reaching out to China to do so, is this the right approach? While we understand the importance of cooperation between the various BRICS countries and would love to see more of it, China does not operate the same submarines. They do not have the same knowledge on German-built submarines. And will this approach, specifically with regards to the submarines, not be misplaced and a waste of funds? So it's again, for me, it comes back, and I'll conclude with this, with the statement that General Lubese made that operation requirements must drive procurement, not procurement being the tail that wags the dog. In this instance, I see some references about procurement with regards to China, but does it actually refer to what the real operational requirements are with regards to the hardware that the South African Navy has when we refer to the submarines? But overall, once again, thank you to General Lubese for the frank way in which he spoke to us. I think he delivered a very strong message to us. And I believe it is critical now that we need to start with the various disciplines of the South African National Defence Force, get their operational requirements, and on the foundation of those requirements, then engage on the issue of procurement, and also engage the National Treasury, which evidently has to come to the party in a far more significant way than they've done. And lastly, Chair, we need as a committee to raise our concern with the Minister of Finance and National Treasury about the fact that we were told by the Deputy Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, General Alamisa, and unfortunately, the General is not with us here today to confirm it, but I'm sure he will if he gets the opportunity, that the President had indicated that there should be a minimum of 1.5% of GDP dedicated to the South African National Defence Force. That was an undertaking. And yet, in this austerity budget that the Minister of Finance presented, we actually got a real cut in terms of the finances of the SANDF. It's unacceptable, and we need to understand what these dynamics are, because we can't be told that the President has expressed a clear point of view, and then we get faced with a situation where one cannot come to any other conclusion but that National Treasury and the Minister of Finance, in direct contradiction, in subordination to the President, takes a different route. This has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed on the basis of the operational requirements of the SANDF. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Niehaus. Honorable Gerike.
Yeah, Chairperson, I don't know where to start because I'm shocked. I'm actually baffled. But let me echo the same sentiments as my colleague, Honorable Karl Niehaus, to thank the Admiral, dearly thank him for an open presentation here this morning, very transparent, to the point as to where we stand and what should be done. I think this is what has been needed all the time. Otherwise, this committee would have touched in the dark for many years to come. I also want to say it is a great pity that the head of the Navy should compromise his career in such a way that he almost sounds like a politician. This is our work that he has done this morning, and therefore I bow my head in shame that a senior official must come and educate us about what the real issues are. I am going to be very brief and propose. We are the Joint Standing Committee on Defense, meaning that we are representatives from the National Council of Provinces and from the National Assembly. I think we must, and this is a formal proposal, we must invite National Treasury on an urgent basis to this committee to understand their thinking with regard to our national security. And we must also then understand their situation as to why they cannot oblige to the call of the President. Remember, the Admiral has mentioned an amount of 1.7 GDP, and we've heard that General Alamisa's President said 1.5% of the GDP. If that is not met, then we must understand why and why not, but we must also then understand when it will be met, so that the South African National Defence Force, the Navy, and all other organizations within this organization must prepare themselves for the procurement. We can have all these meetings, Chairperson, and I'm talking very flat here. We can have all these meetings, and we can sit and we can bigger and we can chat and we can go on. And unless we have the money to do the things, the procurement, and unless we upgrade our system in the South African National Army, Defence Force, it will all be in vain unless we meet with National Treasury. if we meet with National Treasury, it's not going to mean, or it will not constitute interference in the administration, but it will mean that we are performing our oversight duties effectively. So that is my proposal. I hope there's some support for that proposal so that we understand. And after we have met National Treasury, then if they avail funding, then we can speak to the organs again afterwards to hear what their plans are and their timelines in terms of going forward. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Gericke. Honorable Plakis.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think I will not take a lot of the time. I think my colleagues have, after the Admiral have given his input, it is very clear that in defense, the biggest problem, and I think the elephant in the room, is the underfunding of the Defense Department. And also the fact that the Defense Department is used as the petty cash of government when there's any emergency in the country. I think we can relate to the feast must fall. We can relate to the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal, talking about the DRC missions. All of those monies, Chair, that was used by the Defense Force haven't been reimbursed to them. And I think it is important that we meet with Treasury and even begin to engage on all the outstanding monies that were taken from the Defense Force as a petty cash. When is that returned to them? But I think it's important that we meet with Treasury and, as politicians, raise the issue of the underfunding of the Department of the Defense Force with Treasury. I think, Chair, I will concur with my colleagues as to that is the route we should take in engaging this matter. We will be talking here until we get blue into our faces. If there's not real funding to the issues that the defense is having, we will not win this battle, Chair. And I think that the funds is in Treasury. We must begin to talk to them. I think, Chair, I'll concur with my colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Hala.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning. Good morning, Honorable members. Chair, I'm not against what has been proposed by the other colleagues in meeting Treasury. But, Honorable members, if we can all recall, in all our meetings as the two committees, Jones and Portfolio Committee, same song is being sung. That Treasury does not take the department seriously. I would suggest, Chair and Honorable members, that we escalate this to the Office of the President, where all of us as committees, Minister, and the chiefs of the armed services will be present to table this. Because, Chair, if something to the extreme happens, people of this country will blame us. Let us look at the example that was made by the Admiral on Libya. That's my submission. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Gotzel.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I must say, Admiral Lubisi's submissions were quite serious, and I think it's quite important that he raised the historical issues and the fact that it appears that the Navy has actually never been able to look after our submarines in the way that they should have been. And that raises more questions about their actual state. So I'm looking forward to the report in 7 days, and I'm also looking forward to the update about Charlotte Maxeke, because I would like to compare that with what we have been told before. Chair, I am not opposed to a meeting with National Treasury, but I think before we do that, we need to have a meeting with the SANDF, and we need to look at their expenditure and what their priorities are. I say this because, firstly, a few weeks ago, the Minister of Defence told us that they would come here within a certain period of time. I can't recall, I mean, if it was 3 months, and she said they would come and tell us exactly how they plan to spend their budget and where their priorities would lie. There have been reports of matters which does not reflect prioritization by the SANDF, specifically talking about the procurement of luxury vehicles, etc. And on top of that, Chairperson, and I'm sorry that I have to raise this here now, I have written to the co-chairpersons of this committee a week ago, more than a week ago, to say that I have been informed that extra money was allocated to this department. Now, I've asked that the SANDF chiefs and the minister be called to come and explain how that money was allocated, particularly surrounding the allowances for troops, which have been an ongoing issue. I have been ignored. My letters have not been answered. And I think before we get National Treasury in here, we have to look and see what monies have been allocated to the SANDF, where are the priorities, because this back and forth between Armscor and the SANDF have been going for a very long time. So, and then once we know where the priorities lie and exactly how much money have been allocated to the SANDF in the past 3 financial years and what monies have been allocated to them on top of their normal budget, then only can we really assess and confront National Treasury. And then lastly, Chairperson, I also want to say that I don't think having a meeting like this online is helpful, and it's certainly not constructive. If there are going to be meetings in future, especially about important topics like this, it has to be in person. I don't think we are achieving much having meetings like this, especially when a unit or a department cannot even log on online. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Hatton.
Thank you, Chair, and I would also like to thank Admiral Lobise for his input on this, which is basically a confirmation that South Africa has not, for at least a decade and a half, even more, supported our ability to have submarines and frigates. They are coming, the frigates and the submarines were planned to have a 30-year lifespan, provided they get a proper midlife refit, which has not been done. We see what's happening, but and that brings me back to the elephant in the room, and it's being worded in different ways, prioritize or lack of priorities, but the lack of the plan, the lack of the force design that we need. There's now a new national security strategy, which formed part of a defense review, which actually said what we need. We still know nothing. Do we need submarines? Do we need frigates? Do we rather need OPVs and IPVs? We don't know. So we are going on. If we don't need submarines, because we clearly do not want to support the Navy in having submarines, then let it be sold off. There are countries willing to buy the 209s at any time. But we don't know that because there's no plan. And may I then add, there's no vision. There's no funded plan and no funded vision. So we have to go back to priorities. To get to priorities, we need to know the roadmap, where we're going to. We know now what has been identified as South Africa's strategic threats. It's been tabled, redacted, but it has been tabled. But Chair, I don't think it will be worthwhile, perhaps just to get an explanation how the system works, to get Treasury into this committee. What Treasury presents is basically a cabinet decision. Cabinet decided that, and over many years, that the SANDF is not a high priority and should actually be staffed. It's a cabinet decision. It's not Treasury. Treasury is not the superpower that can decide that. It's Treasury. It's the cabinet, and therefore, I would support Honourable Hala to get the Commander-in-Chief here into our committee to get to the bottom of the 1.5, sometimes 1.7. I don't know what it's true, and if it was really said by him, it doesn't appear in any documentation that we have access to. So let me get an understanding. And if the current funding model, in terms of the percentage of the GNP, is the future of South Africa, then there must be a realistic downsizing of our expectation of our force. And then we, like the Minister said herself, then we really, the SANF should really start cutting their coat to the size of the cloth. The size of the cloth is about 50% of the expectations of the SANDF. If we don't have a plan and we don't have the commitment of the Commander-in-Chief, then we can continue having these meetings. I don't even think, I support Honourable Gotzel, but we will be wasting our time going to in-person meetings if we have to say the same things over and over and over again. And we know what has been said for at least the past decades, and we're still exactly where we are. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Gericke again.
Chairperson, thank you. I'm sure it's my last bite, but there is a proposal on the table. The proposal has been seconded. We must understand that it's incumbent upon this committee, whether there's a cabinet decision that has been made or not, it's incumbent upon this committee to accentuate the importance of the crisis in which we are. And when we have people around the table, we may sway their minds and sway their vision for that matter, and say this is the direction that the country must go, and therefore these are the amounts that is needed. Whether it's in a medium term or on a long term, we must understand the heart of Treasury also in this regard. So I remain with my proposal that we call a multidisciplinary meeting. Let's take the politics out of this. It's all about the safety and the security of our country and of our people. We don't need to go and make political statements about this. We must roll up our sleeves, get to work, and call that meeting urgently. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable members, I think we must remind ourselves of our own decisions, because we had agreed earlier that we are going to have a meeting in the third term to discuss the journey to greatness. In the response by Honorable Deputy Minister Wolomisa to Honorable Niehaus, with regard to the same issue we are discussing, on the status update of the 2015 review, the military capstone documents and Journey to Greatness implementation. He indicates that the issue of the Journey to Greatness is work in progress, that the South African National Security Council has directed the National Security Secretariat to develop a report on reviewing of the defense review and the considerations for investing in a sustainable modern defense force. That there are 2 meetings which have already taken place, which have expressed positive support for the 1.5% of GDP defense funding target. And that the minister will be engaging the speaker and the chairs of parliamentary committees on the modalities for engagement with regard to these issues. I think we need to organize ourselves such that when such a meeting takes place, it's productive. Because calling the Treasury on its own, the Treasury, as Honorable Hatting correctly says, isn't going to say, oh, honorable members, we hear you are therefore going to increase the budget. They are going to say there are processes which we are following, the budget process, and therefore we will act according to that process. Because I don't think anybody is going to say they disagree with the 1.5% GDP target for defense spending. So, so that we don't have many meetings that are going to be unproductive, I think it's necessary that we stick to the program we had agreed. So we had agreed to rather be clear as to the objectives we want for that meeting, so that we ensure that that meeting, when it takes place, it delivers the desired results. Because it seems to me that work is already underway on the issue of the defense funding target, which will then resolve the issues which the Admiral eloquently and very boldly raised with us, and ensure that we register progress in regard to these matters. I am not saying we should not have the meeting. Calling the president, I think, is going to be it's going to be an extraordinary step on our part. I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to do it. I'm just saying that if we want to ensure there is progress in regard to the issues we have raised, we should follow a process that allows for a comprehensive presentation to be made to us, and that will enable us to register progress. I see Honorable Niehaus's hand.
Thank you, Chair. I think you've taken most of the words out of my mouth. The critical thing that we are faced with is, what are the operational requirements of the South African National Defence Force? That is exactly what Admiral Lubise referred to when he said those must determine procurement and must determine ultimately what the budget should look like. So it's about what kind of defense force is fit for purpose. So, Chair, the discussion that we need to have is one in the context of those documents that we do not have, the Journey to Greatness, the further review of the 2015 Defense Review. And we need to have those issues sorted out. So yes, we can discuss with Treasury, and I'm not against it, what monies could be available in the interim, and how can we support the SANDF so that it doesn't totally fall apart. But ultimately, the proposal that you are making is that we should follow this program. And we must come to a point where we actually have a clear understanding amongst ourselves, what SANDF do we need? And once we have that understanding, then we need to have a further, more detailed and far more substantial engagement with the National Treasury. And in fact, I would add to that, at that point, then also urgent engagement with the President as the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force. So we as a committee have to take the responsibility to drive the strategical process forward so that we can reach the point where we actually do have a strategic plan on what the requirements of the SANDF is. And out of that, then we flow our in-depth discussion with National Treasury and potentially also with the President if it is so required on those issues. But Chair, for me, the critical thing right now is let's push that process. Let's get those documents. Let's make sure that we engage on almost a weekly basis with the ministry, also with the presidency, because the Road to Greatness document, as far as I understood from the comments by the Minister for Defence and Military Veterans, is stuck somewhere in the security intrigues of the presidency. Let's push to get those documents out and start that proper process. In the meantime, I'm not against the proposal of the Honourable Gericke that we meet with National Treasury, and I don't think your own input just now is against that either. Meet with National Treasury to see where on an emergency basis, in the interim, further resources can be released as a measure to prevent the SANDF from totally collapsing. But the rest of this process, which you've sketched and which I've tried to regurgitate now, is absolutely critical if we want to reach a sensible point. Otherwise, we are going to talk in circles and we will not come up with a proposal that finally determines what the operational requirements of the SANDF, and that must be based on what kind of defense force do we want, what defense force is fit for purpose under our circumstances with our resource base here in South Africa. So that's my proposal, Chair. We can have an interim meeting with the National Treasury, but in the meantime, the real task in our hands is to make sure that we get the strategic plan on what the South African Defence Force should be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Libelo, I've been noting you for a long time. Please come in.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the honorary chairpersons and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Defence.
Honorable chairpersons, not honorary.
Or honorary chairperson. Honorable.
Yes, not honorary. We're not honorary. We are appointed permanently, subject to a new vote, unless you are aware of something.
My apologies.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm from Defence Materiel. I'm acting Chief Defence Materiel from DMD. I humbly apologize for struggling with connectivity earlier when we were supposed to present. And we connected and we thought we were going to be given another chance, and we never got a chance to present. I don't know if it's still possible or we can give a further detailed presentation and a submission, because we've given a submission on that. DMD is the glue between the services and divisions and Armscor. All requirements for support, maintenance and repairs are going through DMD as prescribed by the SLA between Armscor and the Department of Defence.
I thought, Chief, you will await, since you have inquired if you can be given opportunity to present. I thought you would await my response before proceeding.
Thank you.
Because the committee had taken a very dim view of your absence, and we were not informed that you are not available, you are struggling to connect, not even by a phone call. We dispatched 2 people to try and get hold of you, both of whom did not come back with a response as to your whereabouts. And I think it behoved you to send a message to the committee secretariat with regard to your connectivity challenges. Now, this meeting is scheduled until 12 o'clock. We're supposed to move on to the next item, which is minutes. I don't know how long your presentation will take, and it might, and certainly will, prompt a number of questions and comments from the committee, which will take us beyond the scheduled time. I think your inability to present today can neither be blamed on us as the committee or on connectivity, because you should have ensured that you are able to connect at the time that this meeting started, and if you were struggling, you should have quickly alerted us. Now, we are not able to take your presentation. We are going to have to reschedule. And the message, the mandate to the co-chairs by the committee is that we should send a very harshly worded letter with regards to your absence at the beginning of the meeting, especially at the time when you were supposed to present. It's already 11:23. And it's going to impact the committee. Your presentation will impact the committee. But before I make a ruling that you must not present, let me subject this matter to members of the committee to hear their view whether we should allow you to continue to present or go with the earlier decision now that you are here, or go with the earlier decision that we reschedule your presentation, because it is vital for us to be able to see. I mean, if you go by what the Admiral Lobese had said, it's very serious that we should receive your presentation. Honorable Niehaus.
Chair, it's evident that we can't receive the presentation now. We won't do justice to it. We don't have the time. So we will have, unfortunately, to reschedule another time for this presentation. But I fully agree with you that in the light of what Admiral Lubise has shared with us, this presentation is absolutely critical. And it also fits into what both of us have said earlier, and also some other members of our committee, that we need to have a proper understanding of the operational requirements, and that ultimately must be based on what is the strategical position of the SANDF and what kind of SANDF is fit for purpose. So we need to get this presentation, Chair, but not today. Please, we can't. And we need to continue to send that message of strong censure to the principals of those who failed us so badly in the way that you have already described, by not having done what would have been the most basic things to do to meet basic requirements and just to be professional. They failed to be professional. Thank you, Chair.
Is that the view of the committee? Yes.
Yeah, Chair, if I may come in.
Yes.
I will fully support the articulation by Honorable Niels and also as by you. Remember, you have made a ruling in the beginning. You have said, Chairperson, even if they come in now, they will not be allowed to present. But given the fact that we need this presentation and also need this presentation urgently, let us set ample time apart so that we understand the particulars of this presentation properly. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. So, Acting Chief, your presentation will not be heard today. I just want to invite Armscor to respond to other questions, follow-up questions which had been made before we close the discussion on this matter.
Chair, in relation to the questions posed by Honorable Godsall and Honorable Njingila, we'll deal with those. We commit to provide the written responses within the prescribed time to the committee. Chair. On the issue of the agreement contracts posed by Honorable Niehaus, Chair, I can confirm that we have the contract in place for the agreement is placed with SAP, which is the original equipment manufacturer of this platform. The contract ends at the end of August 2025. We have in place, Chair, we have submitted the replacement contract to the board committee yesterday, which was recommended to the board of directors. So this contract will serve before the board by the end of July, to be precise, by the 31st of July 2025. So we will have a contract in place, Chair, when the current contract expires at the end of August 2025. Regarding the issue of the warehousing posed by Honorable Kharike, I think Admiral Lolese dealt so well with the challenges relating to the warehousing of spare parts. Chair. We will not take the point any further. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I take it therefore, honorable members, we conclude this discussion here. And the outstanding questions will be responded to within 7 working days. There is a trend where committee members wait longer than 7 working days. And we are met with silence when we inquire about progress on the outstanding responses. I want to suggest that if there are any delays in terms of providing responses to the committee, the responsible entities, including the department, should timeously inform us that you are not able to comply with the 7 working day rule and you request an additional time and indicate how much additional time you request, so that we are not just met with silence and we keep inquiring and get frustrated as we don't get responses. But thank you very much. Our guests can log out now while we move to the minutes of the previous meetings.
Thank you, Chair, and goodbye.
Thank you. The minutes of the meeting of the 20th of June. I take the minutes as read. We were dealing at that meeting with the introductory briefing by Dinel on its various divisions and support to the SANDF. Are there any corrections that members would wish to make on the minutes? I take it there are no corrections. Are there any issues members would wish to raise? Honorable Niehaus?
No, Chair, I'm not raising issues. I wanted to propose adoption of the minutes. There, as far as I'm concerned, they're in order. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. There is a mover for the adoption of the minutes. Do we have a seconder?
Seconded, Chair.
Seconded, I don't know by who.
Hala is my name.
I beg your pardon?
Hala is my name.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Hala. That being the case, it brings us to the end of the meeting. Honorable
Chairperson.
Honorable Hattie, I think after you, Honorable Pala will then take over.
Okay, we have now adopted the minutes. Perhaps just matters arising. If we
Matter arising.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Before you continue, kindly proceed. I struggled to connect, so I joined the meeting late. Proceed with the meeting. Chair.
Okay, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just quick, the committee resolutions, the first one, the Minister must submit within 7 working days a report detailing the process that unfolded during transition of Denel into the defence portfolio, including a memorandum of understanding. And then also a further resolution, it's right there on the last page, on page 4, that Denel must within 7 working days submit a detailed account of all bailouts received, indicating how funds were allocated, etc., and a breakdown of all vacancies. I haven't received this. I would like to know what's the status of this.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hatting. It actually goes into the heart of what I was saying, that we are just met with silence. There's no response, nothing. We follow up and we don't get responses. So we are going to take this issue up with the Minister so that the DINEL provides us with responses to these issues. And as again, if they are not able to comply with the 7 working days, maybe because of information required, which they are still combining, they should indicate in writing that they are not able within 7 working days, they request an extension so that we understand that indeed we have to allow them more time. But we are going to raise this, we're going to write a letter to the Minister, one, with regard to defense material, and secondly, with regard to, I think, a general point about responses, and thirdly, about this committee resolution on point 7 of our previous minutes. And we will send it on.
Thank you, Chair. Then may I then request that it be minuted that no responses were received, and then also outlining the process as you've just spelled out to us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, we've come to the conclusion of the meeting, and I think the highlight really was the very bold presentation by the Admiral of the Navy, and we are going to follow up on the issues that were discussed and ensure that there is a discussion that is going to address all of the issues which were raised. But I would like to thank you very much for your very robust engagement with all the issues which were presented today, and wish you all a productive Nelson Mandela Day, which is a reminder of servant leadership and the importance of providing service to the disadvantaged and marginalized. I hope you have a successful and productive day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to honorable members.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Bye-bye.